Thanks everybody for coming. We're really honored with this Innovators Award, and Lectra and I are here really as just the leadership team from a group of amazing people, and we've left a list of 6 to 8 people back at Kennesaw State University, from Stephen Gay and McCree Lake and Matt Mitchell and James Kang and Anissa Vega and Jordan Cameron, who I just wanted to make sure we gave a shout out to. So I'm Elke Leeds, and this is Lectra Lawhorn, and we kind of have the 2 verticals in academic affairs and in information technology and the CIO's office. And I guess we just like to, I'm kind of a storyteller, so I just like to tell you the story, and I invite you to be part of the conversation and kind of jump in, interrupt, because what we really did is we started out very quickly and looked at who we were, because we've all heard about this MOOC hype for several years, and I think back in fall of 2012 or January of 2013, when our university system and Board of Regents started really asking, you know, where's our MOOC? And we always thought it was kind of like the where's the beef commercial from Wendy's, you know, where's our MOOC? And I think there was a time if I went into a conference room with a big pink frosted cupcake and set it in the middle of the table and said, here's your MOOC, half the room might have gone like, yeah, that's great. But we looked at this, and the University System of Georgia formed a partnership with Coursera. And I know SUNY is part of that, and the Colorado system, and others, where they said we wanted to open up the MOOC opportunity to state university systems. And we, like some of the other institutions in the state of Georgia, and by the way, there's 31 state and public institutions alone, which is quite crowded for a relatively mid-sized state. We said, well, why would we want to do this? You know, what is it about us that would lead us towards looking at massively open online courses or open courses or whatever we're calling them today? And we said, you know, who we are is we're a state university, and we're comprehensive. We've got about 25,000 students. We're in the middle of a consolidation with another institution, with Southern Polytechnic State University. So as of January, we'll have approximately 33,000 students. We're teaching focused. I think we're very entrepreneurial. We, being, you know, a comprehensive university, but not the flagship university in the state, it gives us a little more freedom and flexibility to try things out, and to really keep it focused not on pure research, but on teaching and learning focused research and ensuring our students have a good experience. So we've got multiple degree programs. We are doctoral degree granting, and we've got a lovely residential campus, and soon we'll have football. So, you know, when you look at MIT and you look at Stanford, and you look at Harvard and Yale and Cornell, and what all of these institutions are doing that are offering MOOCs, we're like Kennesaw State University. You know, how do we fit into that? Well, we're not an Ivy. And for us to go up and offer, and if we were at the keynote this morning with edX and what they were talking about, I was looking at some of those course descriptions. I said, yep, that's not us. You know, what was the chemistry course, was the required course for freshmen? Concrete, discrete, something chemistry, not us. We are teachers, and we're the #1 producer of teachers in the state of Georgia, also of nurses, registered nurses, nurse educators, one of the leading business schools. So for us to offer a computational engineering course or a Psych 1101 course that's being offered at Stanford or MIT, and then right next to that is Kennesaw State University, what's the draw? How do we play in that field, in that market? So we had to say, well, if we're going to do this, because this is a great effort and tremendous amount of resources, why? What's the value proposition for us? And I think very often, and even this morning, we look at the value proposition based on the number of completers. How many people go through a MOOC? Well, we wanted to define that a little differently. If we do this, what are we going to look at as a measure of success? And let's predict that in advance and look at possible measures so that we can really evaluate how this worked for us. And we decided that open courses and MOOCs can strengthen brands, increase opportunities. There's a social justice component. We want to use it as an enrollment driver, invite people into knowing who we are. Web impressions, open educational resources. I think Argot called it the new age textbook. You know, what are we going to really look at? And these are the things we really looked at, that this is going to promote higher educational relevancy, We're part of Complete College Georgia, so one of the governor's initiatives right now is to really draw more Georgians back to college completion, higher degree attainment, certification. I was all right, so this begins to make sense to us. We're not just doing a MOOC because everybody's doing a MOOC. We're not doing a MOOC so we can get, 155,000 students. How will we define success? And frankly, we thought 1,500 would be fantastic. And let's go and look at now what we want to do with it. So if we define our success measures, then how do we create a framework so we're choosing the right course, we're making a difference in the state, we're giving faculty an opportunity, and we created a framework with 3 levels of participation, almost an RFP process, where any course that we offered and committed to develop had to be open and available to the public, had to be community-based, there had to be a value there. We looked at this course to also say there has to be a professional connection, that we have to invite corporate partners and the community into some professional credentialing opportunities. Do they see the value? And finally, if we were going to invest these resources, that there had to be a pathway to enrollment. Some way that we could look at a course to say, this course could be a stepping stone to one of several programs. And we were looking at low-hanging fruit. Not one specialized course to one program to one certificate, but a course that could meet many different areas. So this framework, we called upon our faculty and said we want to differentiate. Again, we can't be what everybody else is in this market. Who are we? Where are our centers of excellence? Where do we have the course and some of the curricular decisions within a department? So the faculty are a big part of this. They're choosing, they're ensuring the assessments are there, the course is rigorous, that they're aligned with the objectives and learning outcomes, and begin the process of meeting. And I must have had this conversation 50 times. Meeting with individual faculty, with departments. Why do you want to do this? If it's to sell a textbook, probably the wrong answer. If it's because everybody else is doing it, again, probably the wrong answer. Hundreds of man-hours of work, of labor, of production. Why do you want to do it? And we went through this process several times. 3 levels of participation within a department, pathways to enrollment. And we began by choosing the right course. And the first course that we offered in January of this year was a MOOC in K-12 blended and online learning. And we offered this course on Coursera because there was tremendous growth in K-12 education in Georgia. We, again, were the #1 producer of educators in the state, so it aligned very well with who we are. There were some public policy and education issues coming out with NK that they were going to bring back the recredentialing requirement for PLUs to teachers. Many of the rural schools are historically underfunded, so a lot of the access to these resources is not available. We have several cohorts in instructional technology and early childhood education where this is a required part of that sequence, or certainly an endorsement for those. And we reached out to the Georgia Department of Education and actually now to the Texas Higher Ed Commission to say, is this a course that you would consider as a professional learning unit approved course by the Professional Standards Commission? And they came back and looked at the content and the partnership with INOCAL and said yes. And we looked at this course and said, you know what, not only does this meet 1 degree program, it meets 4 possible programs: an online teaching certification, an endorsement, and an MED in instructional technology and early childhood education. Multiple pathways. So all right, this is the good option. But if we're going to take this towards a pathway to enrollment, we need to look not only at the framework of how to design the course and the 3 levels, we need to look at the after effect. Was anybody in the Southern New Hampshire presentation yesterday? I loved what they said when they said we had basically a pre-design, design, development, and review. They said we've got this 3-phase process. I think 2 of them, and everybody likes this 3-phase process. But then we realized the 3-phase process had probably 7 phases. So instead of adding, because everybody already liked the 3-phase process, they went, I think, to -1 to 0 to 1 to kind of incorporate it all. Well, we looked at this same concept with an RFP. And so what's the process? Kind of solicit the RFP, review it, design the course, deliver the course. But it doesn't stop there. If we're looking at this as pathways to enrollment, there are other steps to that process. And that includes evaluating results. That includes evaluating course materials. includes the credit process, and then transitioning all of that from an automated standpoint to make this simple for students to take this course and have it evaluated by faculty for credit. Now, this course uses the same activities, assessments, outcomes, meets the same learning objectives. It is basically our catalog version of iTech 7480. So we ensured, and again, in order to get the PLU approval, to demonstrate that this course met the same rigorous standards and assignments, and now, in fact, the materials in this course are being used in the on-campus delivery of that course. So from an accreditor's perspective, this is the same as an online course. Identity is also verified. So it's something where we can say this is what we would offer, we're just opening it up to everyone. And the assessment is at the end. So we wanted to make sure that when we began this idea of the participant student, is that we had communication points from the very beginning at mooc.kennesaw.edu that this course, the materials and assessments and activities, active assessments and active, were able to be evaluated for course credit through a portfolio review. So really, if you think about it, and here's what we were having this conversation, lots of internal conversations, isn't that what we already do in prior learning assessment? Isn't a high-stakes exam basically CLEP or AP? Don't we look at this when we do military transfer credit and transfer evaluation? I mean, we take existing materials, student work that we verify, and we evaluate it for incoming transfer students. We look at work product and portfolios. So this idea that, it's a MOOC, oh my gosh, that's, it's this great new buzzword. I think it's just easy to spell and people hung on to it. Sounds nice. But we're already doing much of this. And if the decisions remain in the department with the faculty and they're evaluated by those groups, aren't we doing with the MOOC and evaluating it for credit what our departments and academic units are already doing? So when we said we need this to be easy to do business with, we had to have those conversations with the students and the participants, messaging throughout the course, introducing them at key points to reach out to an advisor, ask questions of the program director, begin the application process, because the credit is only awarded if you meet the admission standards of the university and of the degree program or department. So beginning that messaging and providing a place for them to begin the submission of materials. If you're like I am, I read the Chronicle, I read pretty much all the higher ed publications, and beginning in January, San Jose State University, even our own Georgia State University, I began reading, we accept MOOCs for credit. How? Like, we accept MOOCs for credit. How many? Who? For what courses? How are they evaluated? We read this, and I had a very difficult time finding the process, the tools. Is it independent? And then going to the websites. We accept MOOCs for credit. Went to the universities, searched MOOCs, searched credit, searched transfer, could not find anything. So if we're going to do this, we need to have a very clear set of instructions for students. Take the course, complete the materials, have them verified, submit them, evaluate, apply, records match, appears on your transcript. That's how we began looking at this. And when we really began the conversation about a virtual assessment center, we didn't design and build this solely for one course and for just MOOCs. This is now an application that can be used for the submission and the evaluation on a multitude of activities. A centralized portal where students can submit work to demonstrate knowledge that are evaluated by the individuals associated with that discipline or degree. So it's done by our faculty in that unit. The control and decision making remains there, which we thought was very important. And share this as this is an opportunity for prior learning assessment. And that's something that we're discovering is very, very important to adult learners, adult-friendly degree programs, military learners, to have a way to submit materials to be evaluated. Even if they aren't all accepted, that opportunity to demonstrate knowledge is a valuable experience. So great in concept, and I'm probably accused of having a lot of great ideas and then finding people to help me enact them. Meet Lectra. Lectra and her team took this vision and took this communication and this conversation and helped us bring the concept of a virtual assessment center to something that actually is a turnkey solution for us and that we're looking forward to expanding to additional MOOCs and opportunities. So I'm going to turn it over to Lek.
All right. Can everyone hear me? I'll just stand up here. Thank you, Elke. So as Elke mentioned, there's more to the story. We were invited to the table from an IT perspective to take this concept and make it a reality. And like a lot of great ideas, how it started was the pen and napkin approach. So Elke sat down with the director of the group that developed databases, and they brainstormed and they documented it on napkins. And then from there, we were able to assimilate this concept from the napkins, and we came up with this workflow. And I know you can't see the details on this workflow, but basically there are two different interfaces. One is from the student perspective, and another is from the assessor perspective. And another note that I want to point out on this particular slide is that there were, at the onset, there were 3 phases. And because we were so excited about this idea and this concept, they rushed it and they were able to do phase 1 and phase 2 prior to production and launch. And we were only charged with doing phase 1. Now what's on there as far as phase 3 is the automation of the banner component, of which to date we have the code already done and we're ready to put it in place. All right, so looking at the 2 different interfaces that I've referenced, one of the 2, the first is the student. So this is the workflow from the student perspective. And basically in the design in the design session, we had certain requirements that are embedded in here, but we had to make sure that it was turnkey, that it was simple, it was easy to get to, and that it was secure. So all the details and the logic behind the scenes from an IT perspective are embedded in this workflow. So basically there's an entry page. Well, you actually access it via mooc.kennesaw.edu and /credit, and you're able to access the VAX. And when you enter, you are given 2 options. One is you can create an account if you don't have an account, or you can go ahead and log in if you have one. And then once you log into the application, you can go to help and get direction, or you can actually go to the desired course and select it, and then you can upload the actual criteria, the documents that are required for the said course, and then you can save it if you don't have all the information at that time. But if you do, once you submit it, then you go through this payment process. And then once you're done with that, then the payment triggers a notification to the assessor and also confirmation to the student. So just to give you a glimpse of what the virtual assessment center looks like, this is the entry page that I referenced. And there are 2 forms of authentication. One is local and one is LDAP. And one of the enhancements that we want to do moving forward is when a Kennesaw address, kennesaw.edu address, is inputted in the create account phase, we'll go ahead and automatically map that so that we can use our KSU NetID system. Let's see what else. Okay, so with the create a new account, this is what the interface looks like. And I guess the important thing to note from the logic behind this is that we do take criteria such as date of birth, the last 4 of the Social Security number, and the name, and we map it against the banner system to determine whether or not it's an existing student. And that's part of the process of that's part of the process of making sure that we can give the credit and banner. And okay, so once you create an account and you log in and you select your course, then you're presented with instructions. Again, we were charged with make it simple, and what we do is we display the instructions so that the students can be successful and they understand what is required with the particular course. So in this case we have 4 criteria, and Then they know what they need to upload, and then they're presented with a screen and they're able to upload the said criteria. Here it defaults to, and here we only have one entry, but like I said in the last slide, there were 4. It would have 4 entry points there, with the default being what was required. And in this, it's Ajax based, so you can actually drag and drop the files on the screen. And also, right now we have it locked down to docx, doc, RTF, and PDF as a criteria format, file format. Okay, so once they actually upload everything they need to upload, they go through the payment process, and they submit it. So they fill in this information, and it is PCI compliant. So once the payment happens, then the assessor, their activity begins. So what they do is they log into the system, they view the portfolio, they determine whether or not the requirements are met, and if they're not met, then they're given an opportunity to create notes and submit the notes via an email to the student to give them guidance on next steps. And if they did meet the criteria, well, then they go ahead and approve it. And then it lets the student know that it's been approved, and then Banner is updated. So here's the interface from the assessor's perspective. At a glance, they see all the submissions that are in their queue. And once they select the desired one, then they're presented with all the details. And this is where they can download and make notes and approve or give more guidance. And then we have the reporting component, where it triggers every week, and it sends it to the department head and also the registrar. And at this point, they update Banner. And again, this is something that we're working towards automating. All right, so just a little bit about the technical details here. Under the hood, we did use ASP and Java-based components such as JavaScript, JSON, P, Ajax, and then we also use VBScript, SQL, and XML. And the reason we chose these technologies is because we had a rapid development, and the ASP is agile, and also it's the folks on the team, this is what they're familiar with. So as far as future technical phases, I referenced a couple along the way. We do want to look at different reporting opportunities, and we're going to add additional MOOCs, as Elke referenced earlier. And then obviously, more pen to napkin. So whatever that means for whatever Elke wants us to do, that's what we're going to do, basically.
Well, yeah, great. Thanks, Leg. Mm-hmm. And I guess what I want to, when we looked at this, you want to talk about just-in-time and real-time integration. The course launched in January of 2014. We began building in January of 2014. And it had to be completely done, verified, tested, meet ISO standards by March 4th of 2014. And we literally were building live. I mean, I was getting 2 a.m. text messages from our programmers who just went above and beyond. But we didn't want to begin with a manual system. Those of you, if any of you have begun with that process of a manual system, it's very hard to then get away from it. And we had to look at something that was scalable. We had no idea what our numbers would be. I would talk with the development team and say 1,500 would be great. There are 9,000 students that have been in this course. And when we look at the in-video assignments and the downloads and the resources that they're sharing, we had 350 who completed the entire course for PLUs and certificates. We had 18 that have submitted complete portfolio applications to be reviewed for credit. It was the first time. Now, we looked at the concept of, well, what's break even? I mean, how many of you have actually developed MOOCs and worked in an institution that's done it? What would you say your average cost per course is? What do you say?
I think actually, we do under Penn State, we do a lot of online.
Yeah.
It's just one, and so if anyone ever gives you an answer, don't believe them, because it's anything between 30,000 and hundreds.
Right. Yeah, and I know the folks at World Campus, and we've been having lots of conversations back and forth. We estimated at about $20,000, and I was pretty conservative with it. For the first iteration, factoring in faculty course releases, GTAs, we did all the in-house production. And we said, all right, based on that, what's our break even? How many students do we need to enroll? What is the downstream future tuition revenue? And we thought if we get 4 that apply this course for credit, you know, in an MED program, like, we're about there. So we said, all right, let's target it. So by that, we quadrupled our expectations, and we're thrilled. But, you know, looking forward, it's really how does this concept of virtually assessing materials for credit, how can you create that so it's scalable? And so it can be expanded across different courses with different requirements routed to different departments and different faculty so that they're at the center of this decision making. If we're talking about the award of credit, that's not an administrator or an administrative system that does that. That's at the department level where the curricular decisions are made. So we looked at that, and this team, you know, we left a lot of pizzas, and I know when we talk about the pen to napkin scenario, I mean, I'll be honest, there were some glass rings on that napkin as long as where the pens went too. I mean, that's how we create and how we innovate. But this project, when we looked at the results, we looked at the submissions, the evaluations, the applications, the acceptances, the enrollments. But we also looked at the impact on the Georgia Department of Education and Professional Standards Commission in the award of PLUs, because the recredentialing requirement is back now. And this was a free alternative for teachers. We did charge for the evaluation of the portfolios. I'm surprised nobody asked me what it was, because in our screenshot it said $1. And I was like, yeah, no. $250. And that's because we use faculty and graduate teaching assistants mentored by faculty to do that work. And we're, you know, and that's, you know, the development costs in it. So, but if you look at a $250 assessment for a 3 graduate credit hour course, that is an 81% discount. And if this is 1 course in a 3-course sequence for an endorsement, that is a significant reduction. And that was our focus. Now we're going to do this with other courses. And again, with that 3-level framework. Is there a general community interest? You know, this is when the Chancellor of the University System of Georgia brought us into the Coursera partnership under his leadership. His focus was not worldwide. His focus was the state of Georgia. So as we look at these courses, we're looking at Georgia citizens, Georgia companies, Georgia agencies, and Georgia universities as ways we can help to have that focus. You know, what's next? Well, January 2015, we're redoing the K-12 blended and online learning MOOC. We're starting the cybersecurity MOOC. We're currently evaluating one on music theory. Our centers of excellence. You will not see a Psych 1101 or a computational engineering course come out of Kennesaw State University. But in the areas where we know we have strengths where we can really impact the community, we will start to look at this and explore this space more. We could have a conversation. We could move this outside and continue a conversation, because I enjoy this concept and probably will learn as much from everybody here as you know, we will together. But any questions that you have, we're happy to answer. There's nothing off limits. He started back here first. That is correct. That is correct. And those other conversations, I know, you know, we are part of one of the member institutions of, oh, it's gone. Credit evaluation. No, ACE, American Council of Education. You know, so we're having those conversations for adult learners and for prior learning assessment, but that involves many additional conversations. And we chose courses where the decisions were centralized in an academic department. These are not interdisciplinary courses. They don't go across departments or gen ed councils or university policy curriculum committees. It's a department. So I'm sorry, you had a question.
Do you see this as a trend, or I mean, are you seeing other universities coming to you to look at this as a way to get started?
Very much so in the university system of Georgia, and now with some of our partner institutions and some of the state systems, because Coursera is also looking at the other state partner systems. We're having these conversations. And this gentleman had a question back here.
Is there any interaction between the faculty and the students during the course of the MOOC?
Absolutely. Very high interaction. In fact, I think I kept it on here as an ancillary. When we looked at the demographics and then the activities, they were social media crazy with this. We also piloted a company called Office Hours where we had kind of live chat and interaction. Twitter was a feed. We did. The instructor did a weekly summation video, called out people, had guest lecturers, did live Twitter feeds. I mean, they were very active. And these are teachers, especially in K-12 blended and online learning. These are passionate teachers, so they wanted to have a very active and engaged course. Gentleman in the back.
Yeah, you're in a technology environment, so students just own their own stuff, so you deliver to any platform, is that correct?
This is on Coursera. So now it's downloadable. I mean, we welcome, you know, when we talked about the measures of success about completers, you know, we've got 9,000 people who have been in this course with 4 3 to 6 minute plus videos, all of which are branded with Kennesaw State University. You can't buy that kind of marketing dollar. And we've ensured they are very high quality materials that we've had reviewed and endorsed, that we welcome teachers and school districts to share and use. Again, many of whom have never heard of Kennesaw State University, and we hope now they've heard of Kennesaw State University. Sir?
The students who are paying for credit, do they have access to any additional resources that a student just taking the regular route would not have access to?
No, and they're not paying for credit. They're paying for the opportunity to have their work evaluated. If it's evaluated successfully and the rubric is provided, the same materials that they submit are also part of a peer-assessed assignment within the course, so they get peer feedback from 3 different peers in the course itself, and then that same assignment is evaluated by an assessor using the same standards and criteria. So just at a higher standard. We would assume a higher standard than what the peers do, but many times we've learned that the peers are more critical of the work than the actual faculty are.
Now, are those assessors part of the teaching staff of that course?
They are, yes.
How do you do verification, and then how long does the assessment evaluation take of faculty? And do you get pushback from faculty?
Well, not yet. I'm not saying we won't. You know, the evaluation and the assessment period, we say within 7 to 10 business days. They typically do it in a few hours. It is structured in such a way that the same materials that the students have been working with, so they're very well honed at this point, and I recognize as people are coming in that we're probably over our time. But they're few hours to assess it, and they give very detailed feedback using the same rubric that was in the course. We use the last 4 of the social, the LDAP integration, the name, secure sign, and then we're going forth with the picture ID verification within the Virtual Assessment Center. So, all right, I thank you all, and I appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you the rest of the conference.